Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Our top stories tonight. A fire at a cable tunnel in Yunlong has disrupted MTR services and caused a blackout. COVID infections in Hong Kong stay above 1,000 for the 7th day. And heavy rains cause massive disruption in southern China, while floods kill more than 100 in Bangladesh. A fire at a cable tunnel belonging to CLP Power triggered a massive blackout in Yunlong this evening. It also caused service disruptions on the Tuen-Ma line. The fire started at around 7 p.m., cutting off electricity to nearby areas. Phone services were reportedly affected as well. The rush-hour train service disruption caused huge crowds to form at stations in the new territories. Citywide station was forced to shut entirely at one point. Power gradually returned to MTR stations at around 8 p.m. Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload has dropped slightly but still remains in 4 digits. Classes in more schools were suspended following infections on campus. Joanna Ho reports.
Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload has stayed above 1,000 for the 7th day in a row. Of the 1,198 infections today, 122 were imported. Schools reported 177 cases, 97 of which tested positive this morning and the rest earlier. Class 2C of FDBWA, Sito Ho Secondary School in Lam Tin, was ordered to be suspended for a week after 4 infections were confirmed. 2 extracurricular classes of St. Francis Xavier School in Tsuen Wan reported 11 infections, 7 from a basketball class and 4 from a Muay Thai class. Training will stop for a while. Meanwhile, Class 5Y of St. Stephen's College in Stanley, which reported 3 infections earlier, added 4 cases today. And one of the 4 infections from Class 5C of CCCK1 Primary School in Aldrich Bay yesterday is suspected to have the BA.2.12.1 Omicron subvariant. Officials said it's likely the other 3 contracted the subvariant as well. On a separate note, lawmakers who were invited for the handover celebrations next Friday will have to enter a closed-loop arrangement from Thursday to minimize infection risks. Their meeting next Wednesday will be adjourned to July 6. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Macau added 13 COVID infections today, pushing the tally in its latest wave to 49. A second round of testing is scheduled to begin tomorrow. Kelly Peng reports.
Authorities in Macau confirmed that another 13 people had contracted COVID, meaning nearly 50 people tested positive in the gambling hub's first cases in 8 months. There are 2 major clusters, a group of 28 foreign workers and 19 prison staff. As an initial round of PCR screenings for Macau's 600,000 residents wrapped up this afternoon, authorities say another round of rapid tests will start tomorrow. Those who fail to get their nucleic acid tests by 3 p.m. today will not be allowed to enter public places until they test negative. The suspension of non-emergency public services has been extended until Friday, and restaurant dine-in services are banned. Meanwhile, local media say the Fortuna Hotel, with 600 people inside, was sealed off due to a suspected case. Kelly Peng, HKIBC.
Hong Kongers will be able to resume visa-free travel to South Korea from next Friday. But Hong Kong and BNO passport holders need to get a Korea electronic travel authorization approved before their flight. This can be obtained online for about $60. Earlier this month, South Korea canceled quarantine for all travelers, regardless of vaccination status. Japan reopened its borders to Hong Kong visitors 10 days ago. Locally, police say they have introduced less lethal weapons to deal with violent protests. Officers say this will reduce the impact on non-participants and the environment. Macy Mong reports.
2 years ago, the Independent Police Complaints Council made 13 suggestions on the use of force. Today, officers gave a progress report. They acknowledged that tear gas could affect the environment and people who are not part of a protest, but said it is effective in dispersing a crowd. Officers, however, have been given less lethal equipment such as pepper ball launchers. The IPCC welcomed the police feedback.
We were introduced to an array of weapons used since before the handover. And those were weapons that would cause a lot more pain, perhaps permanent damage, and we have now improved and progressed to a certain stage where the main concern, is less lethal weapons, right? As much as possible. The weapons must be kept as low grade as possible in terms of pain, in terms of suffering.
The force, meanwhile, received 430 complaints against them in the first 5 months of this year, down 17% from the same period last year. Over half were about neglect of duty and 40% were about misconduct and officers having a poor attitude. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Lawmaker Peter Kun has urged the owners of the Jumbo floating restaurant to give more details on why it capsized in the South China Sea. The former tourist landmark was being towed to an undisclosed destination in Southeast Asia when it encountered stormy seas near the Shisha Islands last Saturday. Water entered the iconic restaurant, causing it to tip over before it eventually sank on Sunday. No crew members were injured, but salvaging efforts are expected to be difficult because of the deep water. Kun, who has supported revitalizing the restaurant, demanded more details, including where the Jumbo had been heading. Marine engineer Lee King-kwang, meanwhile, said the vessel should have had a water leakage detection system. The police counter-terrorism unit is launching a campaign for hardware shops to prevent people from buying bomb-making materials. There have been around 20 cases involving explosives since the anti-government protests in 2019. Joanna Ho has more.
Hardware vendors who've joined the campaign get a promise label to showcase in their stores. This means they've made a commitment to report to police if they come across anything suspicious. Senior Superintendent Peter Leung said vendors should call the counter-terrorism hotline if they notice someone buying an unusual amount of highly concentrated chemicals or solutions. He said frontline staff should also alert officers if a customer is unwilling to disclose the purpose of a purchase. Leung said of the 20 cases the force has dealt with since the mass protests 3 years ago, some bombs were found to be far from ordinary and usually of the type seen in mass terrorist attacks overseas. He said the situation is alarming since extremist activities have now gone underground after the introduction of the national security law. The force is now ramping up promotion for stores in the Wan Chai, Shamshui-po, and Kwaiching districts. Leung hopes the safety charter can cover the entire city by the end of the year. As for police arrangements for handover anniversary celebrations next week, Leung said officers have been gathering intelligence in preparation. He added that the counter-terrorism reporting hotline has so far received over 1,600 tip-offs and some required further investigation. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's next justice minister has defended the city's judicial independence, saying no one has solid proof that there is an issue. Paul Lam told iCable that he did not see how the departure of 4 overseas judges from the Court of Final Appeal since the national security law was enacted had changed human rights and freedom in the city. He noted that Hong Kong still ranked above the United States in last year's Rule of Law Index. In their interview conducted before he was confirmed as the incoming Justice Secretary, Lam acknowledged the public's concern over the security law, but rejected that it had an impact on freedom of speech. A heat wave has sent temperatures soaring in northern China. The south, meanwhile, is hit by floods following the heaviest rainfall in 60 years. Isaac Lee reports.
Residents of Shaoguan in Guangdong province have been told to move to higher ground as water levels rose to a 50-year high. This comes after a record 741 millimeters of rain fell on the city in the past month. Public transport and utility services have been suspended, and troops have been deployed to rescue people from flooded homes. Farm animals found it difficult to escape the rain. Guangdong is one of 7 areas of the mainland hit by abnormal downpours. In neighboring Guangxi province, crops including maize have been ruined. Southern China has been inundated at least 10 times in the past 2 months. The north, meanwhile, is sweltering under a heat wave. Affected by a current of warm air, Henan, Hebei, and Shandong provinces have recorded temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius in the past week. Experts believe that the intense heat will last for a few more days. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
In Bangladesh, severe floods have killed more than 110 people. Rescuers raced to reach villagers trapped as floodwaters inundated buildings in low-lying areas. Authorities struggle to feed hundreds of thousands who were left homeless. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inspected the damage across hard-hit Sylhet from a helicopter. Bangladesh is no stranger to flash floods, but scientists believe that climate change intensified the impact. Millions of people across Britain are struggling to get to work or school as railway workers went on strike. Only 20% of trains are running in the biggest transport strike in 3 decades. The government has condemned the strikers, saying they're hurting the country. But the 40,000 cleaners, signalers, maintenance workers, and station staff insist that they're fighting for survival, as high inflation has sent prices soaring. 2 more rail strikes are planned for Thursday and Saturday. There's been a nerve-wracking encounter in the Strait of Hormuz between Iran's Revolutionary Guard and the U.S. Navy. The Americans said 3 Iranian vessels approached 2 U.S. ships. One fast craft raced towards the USS Circle before changing course after the Americans fired a warning flare. There's been no word from Iran. Tensions remain high in the strategic waterway where 20% of the world's oil passes through. The Hang Seng Index has risen for the 3rd straight session, gaining 1.9% today on optimism that the mainland is winning the fight against COVID. Casino stocks recovered as investors felt the sell-off yesterday was an overreaction to Macau's new COVID outbreak. Galaxy Entertainment jumped 1.6% and Sands China 1%. Mainland developers gained ground after more cities took steps to boost the property sector. Country Garden and China Resources Land each added more than 1.3%. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 395 points. Top 10 active stocks: Alibaba up $1.40, Meituan up $1.80, and Koulan up 52 cents. Tracafun up 36 cents, Ping An up $1.40, and Hong Kong exchanges up $5.80. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar. Euro is trading at 8.28, British pound at 9.62, Australian dollar 5.45. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is up 40 points. U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to announce his decision on whether to scrap tariffs on Chinese imports next week. Sources say there's a high likelihood that he will remove the levy on about $300 billion worth of consumer goods in an attempt to stem surging inflation. But tariffs on strategic items such as circuit boards are expected to remain. The duties are imposed by former President Donald Trump. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be mainly cloudy in the morning before turning fine and very hot during the day. Temperatures range between 28 and 33 degrees. Thursday and Friday will be fine and very hot. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more updates at 11. I'm Sarah Wong. Thanks for watching. Please stay safe and take care.